My name is Emily Tice, and this is my patriotism speech. The First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution gives us the freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. These rights apply to everyone, no matter your age, race, or religion. We need to remember that everyone has a right to say whatever they want. While we might not agree with what they say, we need to respect their opinions and choices. There are, however, some restrictions that can be placed depending on the circumstances. The freedom of speech allows us to say what we want. This right can, however, be censored in schools. Schools have the power to make sure we don't say inappropriate things while on the school grounds. Freedom of press is a tricky one because while everyone has this right, we do need to be careful. While we do have the right to post what we want on social media, we still need to be careful about what we post. People can turn you in on social media. Social media directors then look at why you got turned in and what you posted. Then, depending on what the media directors decide, they could possibly ban you from their media site. Freedom of religion allows us to practice whatever religion we want. There is no set religion that we have to follow. Everyone is free to make their own religious choices. Freedom of petition gives us the right to start a petition anytime we want. Petitions are a way to express what we believe and are a way to take action. We can also have other people sign our petitions so they know that there are other people that believe the same things that we do. Part of the rights we get from the First Amendment is the right to peaceful protest. This falls under the First Amendment and the right to assembly. Some ways to peaceful protest are by marching or standing in front of buildings. The Montgomery bus boycott was a peaceful protest led by the African Americans in the 1950s. African Americans were tired of sitting in the back of the bus while the white people always got to sit in the front. They decided to stand up for themselves. So, instead of taking the bus, they decided to walk or carpool everywhere. This protest went on for 13 months. The whites wanted to feel like they were dominant over the blacks. That's why they made them sit in the back. The African Americans wanted to show the whites that we are all equal. After the beginning of the Montgomery bus boycott, some African American civil rights leaders started to put a case together about segregation on public transportation. This case was called Browder v. Gale. This case was presented to 3 judges at the district court level. The judges ruled 2-1 that segregation on public transportation was unconstitutional. This case was then taken up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Supreme Court upheld the district court's ruling that segregation is unconstitutional on public transportation. This peaceful protest got attention from all over the United States. The Montgomery bus boycott sparked a fire in many African Americans, making them want to stand up for their own rights. Because of the Montgomery bus boycott today, there is no segregation on public transportation, and everyone, no matter the race, is treated equally. Peaceful protests can sometimes turn violent. Sometimes the protesters get angry and start to physically fight the police officers. Other times, the police officers like to violate the protesters' rights by illegal uses of force or mass arrests. The protesters need to realize that the police officers are just there to keep everyone safe. The police officers also need to realize that the protesters have the right to protest, and they can't just go and violate them without them having done anything wrong. Police officers do, however, have the right to step in if any of the protesters get out of hand. The police officers need to recognize that the protesters are just there to speak their mind, and that they do have the right to do that. The protesters need to respect the police officers and know that they are just there to keep the peace. I think we all need to be respectful to everyone. While we do have the right to say whatever we want, we need to think about how other people might feel about what we say. If we are all careful about what we say around other people, we won't have to worry about any restrictions. In conclusion, the First Amendment gives us the freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and petition. This right applies to everyone. There are many restrictions to these rights. The First Amendment allows us to speak our mind in many different ways.